I ran smack into a strange figure I'd never seen before. It was a man with long hair and dressed in tatters of old ship's canvas and old sea cloth. His skin was burnt by the sun, and his eyes looked fiercely at me.
Boy?
Who are you?
I'm poor Ben Gunn. I haven't spoke to a living soul in 3 years.
3 years? Were you shipwrecked?
No, me lad, worse. Marooned. Left here on purpose, all alone. 3 years ago it was, and I've lived on berries and goat's milk and oysters. Tell me, lad, you wouldn't happen to have a piece of cheese on you, would you? Many's the time I've dreamed of a piece of cheese. What's your name, boy?
I told him.
Look at me, Jim. You wouldn't think by the sight of me that I was rich now, would you? But I am rich.
I was sure that the fellow had gone crazy in his solitude, and I suppose my reaction must have shown in my face.
Rich, Jim. And I'll make you rich, too, boy. Ah, Jim, you'll bless your stars that you found old Ben Gunn, you will.
Suddenly, he raised his eyes and saw our ship riding on anchor in the water.
That ship? It ain't Flint's ship, is it? Tell me true, Jim.
I suddenly understood, somehow, that Ben Gunn was an ally and not an enemy. I told him it was not Flint's ship, that Flint was dead, but that some of Flint's old crew was with us.
Is there a man among them with one leg? Name of Long John Silver?
I told him there was, and then I told him the whole story of Billy Bones and the map and the voyage to Treasure Island.
So that's it. You're a good lad, Jim. You and your friends are in a predicament as I sees it. Now, if I was to help you out of it, do you think I might get some passage home with you?
I told him that this was very likely. Then I asked him how he happened to be here on the island alone.
I'll tell you, Jim. You see, I was with Captain Flint when he buried his treasure. He had gone ashore with 6 of his men, and the rest of us stayed on the ship. Billy Bones was a mate at the time. John Silver was a quartermaster. Well, you see, Captain Flint, like I says, went ashore with 6 men. But after a while, when the treasure was buried, he came back to the ship all by himself. And we knew that the other 6 was dead. And we set sail again and shoved off. Well, lad, 3 years ago, I was working another ship. And we sighted this island. I says, let's go look for Flint's treasure, I says. Some of us came ashore, but we looked and there was no sight of it. 12 days me and that crew looked. Every day that passed, they had worse thoughts for me, until they said, all right, Ben Gunn, you can stay here and look all for yourself. And then Jim, my lad, they shoved off and left me here alone. So it's 3 years I've been here, Jim. 3 years.
Suddenly our conversation was interrupted by the sound of a cannon and the firing of muskets. And for an explanation of what it was all about, I must tell you now what I learned later from Dr. Livesey.